This is the Breakfast Leadership Podcast. Boundaries or burnout, you make the choice. Here's your host, Michael Levitt. Welcome to another episode of the Breakfast Leadership Podcast. It's Michael here, and I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. I've got Lisa McDonald on the line with us, and she's going to teach us about living fearlessly, and I'm sure we'll share some stories and anecdotes of experiences and planes, trains, and automobiles, and all kinds of other fun stuff. So, Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Happy New Year. How are you, my friend?
I am very, very well, thank you. And I trust that 2019 is treating you well.
Yeah, we're in some shifting right now with all the things that are happening in the planet. And you and I were talking about this prior to going live. This is just some of the things that people who are more sensitized and more tapped in and tuned into energy are experiencing. So, but, working through it. But, all in all, it's all good as long as you're consciously aware of it, correct?
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest battle for many of the people that listen to this show is just being aware, not only your surroundings, but just being aware of what you're feeling, experiencing, your thoughts, your emotions, what's really going on with you. Because once you do that, you get back control. And I think that's a big thing that many of us think we lack. We think that we're lacking control on what we do and the things that are happening in us and to us. But we have more control than many of us think. So definitely want to dive into that. But first and foremost, why don't you share with the audience how we met? And we can we'll glaze over the Georgia experience. Although it's when I tell people about it, they look at me and they go, "Really? Is that actually happened?" Yes, it did.
Well, we met, and I'll try to make this as succinct as possible because I know you have other questions you want to ask and other subject matters you want to dive into. So no coincidence. I say this to you. I've said that to you from day one as we started unearthing some of how it was we already knew each other without recognizing and realizing at the time of formally introducing ourselves to one another that we were already on each other's radar unbeknownst to each of us. So we had both attended an event in Toronto. It was the PDA or the Personal Development app headed up by Robert Evans, who in fact I'm interviewing this Friday on Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. And so I came late, which I had said in advance to Robert that I was going to be arriving late because I had radio. And there was a seat vacant right beside you in what was a quaint but packed room. And I took my seat beside you, and you and I got talking, and then we started talking about things such as C-suite. We started talking about certain people's names, and you're like, I think I'm connected to you on LinkedIn, and I know so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. And we both whipped out our phones, and we were going through our social media footprint and taking a look at who we were already connected to. And sure enough, I popped up on your followers list, and you popped up on mine. And then that led to all kinds of different synergies that we realized that we were in the same orbit. We belonged to the same orbit. And then it led to C-suite, and then it led to introductions between you and Jeffrey Hazlett. And now you're up and running with the C-suite network with, I believe, a couple of different divisions of business. And in our conversation at that event, we were talking about a certain individual who's overseeing my book, Justin Sachs from Motivational Press, and he had been on your radar, and he had reached out to you for different things at different times, and he had reached out to me, and so we had that in common, and that took us to Georgia, where we both participated in the interviewing. We were both interviewed in a documentary, and you tell the story much better than I in terms of the planes, trains, and automobiles. So I'll let you take over here.
Yeah, it was an interesting whirlwind trip. We basically landed in Atlanta. It was in the evening. So it was, I think by the time we got to, what do I want to call it, a resort? Anyway, It was, I mean, the places were nice, don't get me wrong, but it was different.
I felt like like I was in the X-Files.
Yeah, I was wondering, what was going to come around the corner, and deep woods, Georgia, that's the setting for many horror films or something like that. So here we are in the middle of nowhere. We get there late, and they get us into the property because they stayed late because they normally leave, roll up the sidewalks and leave. But we got there on a Sunday night, and Monday morning, we were able to participate in the interviews for the documentary. And then we are literally trying to get to the front area where an Uber driver can take us back to the airport, because we didn't bother renting a car. It's like, we knew that we could, get a ride share to and from, or at least we thought we could. And we did. We were able to make it back home. But the Uber driver couldn't find us where we were. And the maintenance people who could, give us a shuttle ride from where we were filming to the actual area that the Uber driver did find to be able to pick us up. And she was there for, I'm going to say, a half an hour anyway. So I feel, I'm thankful that she waited, because again, it was not close to the airport. And the fact that we were able to get a driver to come way out there to pick us up was nothing short of a miracle. Yeah. And then waiting for, the clerk to come in the, golf cart to take us, because they said, we'll do that. And I said, well, you could walk it. And depending on who you talk to, it could have been like a 5-minute walk to the front to a 30-minute walk. Now, of course, we're both in business attire, and let's go trouncing through the woods with our suitcases. And it was just, and it's like, no, we can't do that. So thankfully, another participant that was participating in the documentary had pulled up, and he was kind enough to give us a ride to the front where the Uber driver was waiting. So we were able to get a dog show. And yeah, so anytime that I run into any type of, coordination challenges at an event or anything like that, I think of this event, and I think of, okay, we were able to navigate this. So what we're experiencing here is not a challenge. We'll get through this. This won't be a problem if we can. And I remember too, when we saw the Uber driver way down the road, and I'm like yelling and trying to get their attention and
flagging her down.
Of course, she didn't see us. But I was like, and I'm like, I can't make it down there. She's driving too fast. And of course, Georgia, everything's dirt roads. So I'm like, right. So much for that shoe shine that I got at the airport on the way in. It's like, completely undone. So that was that.
It's like a scene from The Sound of Music. You're yodeling to the Uber driver. Wait, we're alive. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that documentary coming out, because the backstory of it is quite frankly, it's probably going to be better than my talk. No, I think my talk's going to be good. I know yours is too, because I was obviously fortunate enough to be able to see it live when it was done, but and also excited to see what the others were, since we didn't get a chance to really chat with them. Absolutely.
But
absolutely,
we were gone less than 24 hours, and it was good. But boy, that was an interesting overnight trip for sure. But we survived it, and
survived it. And you know what? Those situations make for wonderful storytelling and story shelling, storytelling and story shelling or sharing. Oh my God.
Shelly is your assistant. Yeah.
The energy is really messing with me today, so thank you for bearing with me.
Oh, I'm feeling it too, where, I'm a little bit off gear a little bit myself, and you just march through it and you acknowledge it. You go, okay. And not be upset about it. Just say, okay, this is what it is.
It is.
Yeah, and not attach any emotional connotations to it. It's just like, okay, that's what it is. Okay, tomorrow we'll see how I'm feeling, and we'll go from there.
Right.
But no, that was an epic trip. So that gives you a little bit of insight of what, when Lisa and Michael happen to be in the same place at the same time, the types of things that happen. So if you're looking for an adventure on your next trip, please visit, Living Fearlessly with Lisa. Yeah, so it's it's one of those things where part of me wants to say, I wonder how we'll top that, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to try to top that. That could be alarming. Well, hopefully the next
I
time
think we will. I think there's adventures upon the horizon for both of us because we run in so many similar circles and we belong to so many different mutual things that I think it's inevitable, Michael. So now that we've got that experience under our belt, I think we can handle whatever gets thrust at us.
Yeah, we're definitely pressure tested. That's for sure.
Yes.
And can negotiate an Uber driver to sit there for a half an hour and wait for us.
Absolutely.
So tell the audience about, I mean, your backstory, obviously I'm familiar with, and, but, living fearlessly. I mean, that's, whenever I hear, those phrases, oftentimes I don't hear them together, but if I hear one or the other, for me, it just naturally groups together. And I immediately think about, the impact that you're, causing on the world. So, talk to the audience. Oh, my pleasure. And talk to the audience about, living fearlessly, what that means to you, what your dreams are for everyone to be able to, cause their own impact on the world in a positive way.
Well, I appreciate that, Michael. And so living fearlessly for me, I'm fully branded. So living fearlessly with Lisa McDonald crosses over to every sector of business for me. And not just business. It's really an ideology. It's really a mindset. It's the way I live my life. Whether I'm interfacing with mentoring clients, whether it's my show, bringing stellar guests such as yourself onto Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald, whether it's what I talk about on the stage or in the written word, blogs, books, etc. So, we all know, particularly when we get to this juncture, stage, phase in life, I mean, we've all been struck by adversity and by challenge and unforeseen circumstances that in many cases have molded us, and I look at the good stuff that derives out of that. I talk about turning shit into gold, and we've all had shit. But some people get immersed and stuck and saturated within the shit. And some people go, okay, well, you know what? There's something bigger at play here, and I just have to figure out what that is, and I've got to make that work for me within what is in my control. Attitude is within our control. How we approach life is within our control. Whether you choose to be an eternal optimist or a pessimist is completely up to you. So I've always been in the realm of personal growth, personal development, long before it ever became trendy or the buzzword, and had to be for what I used to do once upon a time, Michael, in social services. So for 25 years, I was in senior management, started out frontline, but scaled pretty quickly to a director position, which was my last held position before becoming a stay-at-home mom, then a single mom, and then becoming entrepreneurial. So once upon a time in social services, crisis management specifically, I'd worked with people who fell within the isms, people who were disenfranchised, people who were marginalized, people who were oppressed, people who were abused, people who were afflicted with mental health, all kinds of issues and challenges and obstacles. And so it was always important to me to impress the blueprint of empowering others to empower themselves, because, it doesn't matter what the position is in which you occupy. I mean, if you're interfacing with the most vulnerable sectors of people, or not necessarily the most vulnerable, but at that particular time in their life, they're feeling the most vulnerable. It's really giving them an infrastructure of support in which to clarify and redefine what it means to be your own hero, to be your own shiro, to be your own leader, to be your own best friend. And oftentimes, what's going on in our external world is very much indicative of what's going on in our internal world. It's really very much about the mirroring effect. And I've always been committed to my own personal growth and personal development. It's very much every day is a healing journey. I don't get caught up in the labels or the stigmas or the stats that I fall within between being an incest survivor or a divorced woman or a single mom. If anything, I look upon those things as having created and built more character, more resolve, more conviction, more clarity, more focus, more self-discipline, fortitude, resiliency, tenacity, relentlessness. So I've just made all of those transferable skills of what I used to do once upon a time work for me by, rather than once upon a time working with a select sector of demographic population or a specific agency or a certain clientele, now I'm taking my message of living fearlessly to the masses, to the collective. I can have more impact that way. I can reach more people. It's kind of a one-stop shop now because it is global radio, it is global podcasting. And I've been very fortunate to have showcased, again, many stellar people such as yourself, Michael, but people that I've now been afforded the opportunity who have once upon a time been intangible mentors to me, to invite them back onto my platforms to publicly thank them for the ways in which they didn't realize at the time they had been, as I mentioned, intangible mentors to me through the exemplary leadership, either through their written word in their international best-selling books or their TED Talks or whatever the case may be. So I just, I do really say very few things, but I say them consistently. I'm very clear on what my purpose is. My purpose is to uplift people to fear less and to live more. I believe it's about mindset. I believe no matter what the adversity or the circumstance somebody's going through, because we've heard people statistically who have been impoverished, people who have been raped, people who have been marginalized, people who, have encountered all kinds of systemic abuses and atrocities in life. And they're the ones who birth the most beautiful stories. They're the ones who build the most incredible legacies. They're the ones who inspire people at the international, global level that anything is possible. And if I can do it, you can do it. And I just feel that in some way I fall within that category. And I have refused to remain silent. Where once upon a time I felt invisible or I felt silenced. I mean, now you can't shut me up. And I don't want to be shut up. I don't want to shut myself up. I will never give myself permission to silence myself or to be invisible or to think that what I bring to the table in this smorgasbord of life isn't of value. I very much respect and appreciate who it is as a person. I mean, and that comes from self-love. It comes from self-healing. It comes from self-awareness. It comes from all kinds of things, but it's continual. Right? It's something that you have to plug away at every single day, and you have to really get clear on who you are, what you stand for, what your non-negotiables are, and what you will go to the wall for. And whether people see what you see for yourself is irrelevant. If you see it for yourself, anything is possible. And where people oftentimes say, the sky is the limit, I say beyond the sky is the limit. I think the only person who's responsible for truly, at the end of the day, placing limitations upon us is ourselves. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have to change the ways in which we dialogue with ourselves. Is the way in which we dialogue with ourselves aligned with what it is we say we ideally want to show up in our lives? Are we moving further away from it, or are we moving closer toward it? What are we doing that's within our power and control to empower ourselves to make that more than possible? And, not my term, but I staunchly believe in it. You have to believe it to see it. And oftentimes people feel that they need tangible proof to provide the level of incentive or motivation or inspiration to work towards it or to fight for it. And it's wrong. I mean, you've got to believe it. You've got to resonate with yourself and whatever it is you envision for yourself at that level internally, at the core of your being. And then you start making traction. Then you start continuously, momentously putting one foot in front of the other. And then when you consistently do that every single day, and you say the right things to yourself, and you do the right things, and you take actionable steps, and you align with the right people, this is where people oftentimes get confused in their jargon, and they say, what a coincidence that was. Well, no, that's the universe showing you and providing you the signs and the symbols to reinforce that you are in fact on the right path. When you align with the right people and the right opportunities, that is an indicator that you are in fact on the right path, and to nudge you to keep going. So everything that once upon a time, I mean, I've still got like a hefty to-do list and a goals list and an intentions list, however people want to term it. But for anything that has ever, 4 years ago at least, that was on my to-do list, I accomplished both personally and professionally. And that's because I saw it. I envisioned it, and then in real time, I caught up to it. I made it a non-negotiable, and I did whatever was required. And whatever's required is generally, as I've made reference to, it's honing your mindset. It's deconstructing all the false beliefs and the false concepts that tend to keep people immobilized in fear and keep them stuck. It's really looking at who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Are these people intuitive or counterintuitive to supporting the energy that you need to continually be in, to emit the energy you need to attract the right people? I do believe in law of attraction. It's very much shown up for me. It's a part of my life, and I try to keep myself as consistently as I can operating at my highest vibrational level. I'm not in competition with other people. I do aspire on a daily basis to be the best, most improved version of myself. But I am human. I trip myself up. I get tripped up, but I don't give myself permission to sit in that space for any excessive amount of time. It's like, but I'm cognizant of it. And once I start to feel that energetic internal shift, and it's like this energy isn't supporting what I want, who I am, what I believe in, then the minute I have that conversation and recognition within, then I quickly jump out of it just as quickly as I jumped into it. So that's kind of what it is for me, Michael. That's a bit of a snapshot of what Living Fearlessly for Lisa McDonald is all about.
No, it's amazing. And, I love the stuff you talked about, with the self-love. One of the things that I attempt to do, and again, much like you, I'm not perfect. I don't do it all the time, but, I've definitely increased it, over, the recent years, is a daily check-in with myself. Mm-hmm. And just ask myself, to be honest with myself, how am I doing? Mm-hmm. What's going on in my day? How was yesterday? How's this week going? Okay, how's this month looking like? Mm-hmm. What's my schedule look like? So I'm all about the calendar. So I look at my calendar and I go, ooh, okay, I need to shift some things around here, because I talk about burnout, and let's not have the burnout guy burn out. That's not going to be good for branding purposes. This is a real life enactment of what it looks like. Yeah, no, let's not do that.
Right.
I did that once, coming up on 10 years ago. So I know. And I firmly believe too, the law of attraction. And when you are in the right ecospace or realm, whatever, however you want to describe it, mm-hmm. things flow easier. Now it's not instant. It's not like, whoo, I've moved into this leadership space and now all of these things are happening. Although, when I talk about, things that are going on with me, and I talk to people and I haven't seen them in a while, they're like, wow, you've got all this going on. But of course I didn't say, well, I've been working on this since 2014.
Exactly.
Or as I like to joke around, that, that 15-year overnight success, which many, 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 many of us have been in that. And you said something earlier that, I completely agree with, is the people that have gone on and done incredible things in our space. Every one of them has a backstory of overcoming insurmountable odds that happen to a lot of people, but they chose to take those bricks that were thrown at them and build a staircase. Keyword you said there, and I preface this a lot in my blogging, in my speaking, choice, because it is at the end of the day, it is a choice. Exactly. You can choose to be a victim, and your story, many people who've had similar experiences, unfortunately, chose to put on that victim badge, and they wear it like a name tag every day. And it's like, throw that badge away. I'm not saying the experiences didn't happen. Don't be delusional, but grow from it. Choose to take a path that is of self-love and self-care, and like I said, be your own hero, your own shiro. Because if you celebrate you and you are your biggest fan yourself, all the likes on social media, all the comments. I love reading them. Don't get me wrong, but it helps also diffuse, those people that can be jealous. Some people call them haters. All of these things that because everybody gets posts and comments on things, and it helps diffuse that because that your number one fan is always going to be your number one fan, and if that's you, then everything else is just icing on the cake. It's absolutely amazing, and the impact that we have on people is just extremely gratifying, and it helps us do the things that we choose to do, like you said before, choose, and it reinforces that again, we are on the right path of things, and again, taking care of yourself and doing everything that we do, it keeps the awareness level very high, so we can quickly shift if we need to shift direction on something, or be open to opportunities that come up, or to make sure that because we are so focused on a particular path, that even though something that comes before us is a great opportunity, not at this time is one of those things that it's a boundary thing for me. It's like, because there's so many great things to get presented to us in this world of things that we could do. And unfortunately, if we say yes to all of them, then we're like, okay, what are we actually accomplishing? We're busy doing all of these things, but is it in alignment with what, our calling is, what our one red thread, if you want to pull out a Dove analogy. It's like, yes. What is that? And find that, and then use that as one of the questions when anything gets presented to you. Okay, does this align with who I am, what I'm doing now or in the immediate future? If it's yes, then okay, then you look at it a little bit deeper. If it isn't, then no, not at this time. And as I like to say, saying no makes your yeses stronger, and it reinforces the yeses of things that you do.
Well, that's a really good point that you made, Michael, and I want to kind of elaborate or extrapolate upon that a little bit, because, I've gotten to a point now, as I know you have, and many people who are in the space, when you become exceptionally clear and laser focused on what your purpose is. And yes, we're diversified in what it is we do. I am a serial solopreneur. I wear different hats within my business of Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. And for each of those tentacles, it opens up different pods of people who are presenting all kinds of opportunities, which I'm super and always eternally grateful for. But I've had to get exceptionally clear on the fact that I can't say yes to everything. I mean, I got asked to speak in Ireland this year. I was asked to speak in India. I get asked to speak all the time, and these are things that definitely are in the forefront of what the future looks like for me. But I'm also a single parent to two still fairly young children. So, unless certain things work within the confines of my childcare schedule and not deviating too much from that, then my answer is it is a no, and I'm pretty clear on that. I'm very clear on that. And some people, they feel they have to say yes to everything, because the more things that they say yes to that they can ramp up as promo or marketing opportunities, or, it keeps you current and it shows that you're in demand. And these are all important things when you're marketing who you are, because that's what has increased my client roster. That has that has legitimized the types of guests that I continue to get on my show, who are high profile, recognizable, notable people on a first name basis. So it has boded well for me. It has fared well for me. I've done well with it, but I've done it within the confines of what works for me. And when I start to feel that I'm getting bombarded with too many things, then I start to see that I'm not effectively handling things. And then it becomes a bit of a downward spiral and going down the rabbit hole, because I am A-type personality, and I don't like my name being associated to something that's not like a bullseye right out of the park. I like I like things that are in the flow of the inception of the thought to, the process that you need to implement to execute, and then having a good outcome. I'm very much about that. I'm a very results-oriented person. I like to measure the barometer of my own traction, my own momentum. But I'm grateful that I got asked, and people are very understanding and compassionate of what my circumstances are, and people know that my children will always come first and foremost. And so if I have to say no to something because then saying yes infringes on that priority, then these aren't people who are essentially my tribe anyway, if there's going to be residuals or backlash or non-compassion. So yeah, I'm saying no to a lot of things, but because I believe in myself and I believe and very clearly can see the trajectory of where I'm going, those opportunities will be there, different ones perhaps, presented and offered by different people, but all within the realm and the space of where it is I'm going anyway. So I'm a very patient person in some respects. I'm very impatient in some ways, but I'm patient in the understanding that I've always known how to trust the process. And I know why it's important to simultaneously relinquish things so that you can then open up the space to receive things. And I'm not just a great giver, I'm also a great receiver. And I think to keep that synergistic energy alive, where people would look at my stuff or look at my social media and go, wow, and people said this, and there's no ego attached to it. It's just, this chick's on fire. It's like everything she does is like, she lands it, she closes it. Well, that's not true. You and I both know, Michael, that, there's truth to everything that does get posted. There's truth to everything that has been offered or presented, or a project that's come to fruition, or a book that's been written and now it's being sold, or whatever the case may be. But it's just very much understanding that to receive ongoingly these opportunities, you have to create the space in which to fill that, which means you've got to relinquish all the toxicity. You've got to, I outgrow things very quickly. I outgrow myself and my goals very quickly. 1 year something looks like it's a major challenge and I get really jazzed by the challenge. And then next thing I know, I've got it down pat and it's like, okay, that's not so challenging anymore. And it's not as exciting. I'm not as on a steep of a learning curve. And I don't say bored. I don't have the luxury of time to be bored. I used to say there's not enough hours in the day. Now I say there's not enough days in the week. Now I've created an 8th day for myself because I get up at 4 generally every morning. So you times that by 7 days, because entrepreneurial, I'm working 7 days. There's my 8th day. I created it for myself. Mindset again. So it's just, I know where I'm going. I know where I already am. And yeah, I get that restless energy because I am an overachiever. I am a type A personality. But it works for me. It's like I make the comparison and have done so on radio and in my writing before. It's like somebody who habitually jogs every single day and jogs 10 miles. The day that they don't jog, either because they're sick or weather conditions would make it unsafe perhaps, then they physically feel ill. They are like so spiraling. They are not on their game. They are not in the zone. That's me. So if I don't feel like I'm operating and executing every single day and my output doesn't match what I see and envision in my mind as getting myself closer to the end goal or the results of what it is I say I aspire to reach, then I'm not okay. Like my equilibrium is like out of whack. And for some people, they look at that and they go like, God, do you know how to relax? People ask me that all the time. Do you know how to relax? Well, maybe to other people it might sound counterintuitive or it's not the ideal definition of relaxation. But because everything I do, I love what I do and I do what I love. And this is truly me honoring my spirit. And I'm honoring my spirit because I'm very exceptionally clear on what my purpose is. If I'm not aligned with doing the things that support that substantiate that qualify that verify that, then I'm out of whack. So relaxation for me is doing what I love doing every single day, whether people want to put that under the guise of workaholic or obsessed or fanatical or maniacal. That's just who I am. And I've always been like that. I've been like that in previous careers. I've been like that as somebody who's lived on my own since 16 and has had to flip the bill to pay for my own college and university tuition. No grants, no loans, no mommy, no daddy. Somebody who's had to pay for their own braces. Somebody who's had to pay for their own house. Somebody who's had to pay for their own vehicles. I mean, I don't know what it is not to be completely independent. And so where that was once birthed out of survival mode, I've now kind of eclipsed it with, which I much prefer, Sir Thriver. I'm a Sir Thriver, right? I'm thriving in the element of what once was survivor mode, which I don't particularly like that term, but people grasp what you mean when you say it. So it's got its place, and it's always understood within the context of when it's applied. So I just, if people don't get me, if people think that I'm not clear about what my priorities are, because people like us, Michael, it's so easy to misunderstand people like us. People don't understand why we do what we do for a living with no guaranteed paycheck. We don't get I don't get the 2-week stat holidays. I don't get paid vacation. I don't, but that's my choice. That's my choice. I can't imagine not working for myself anymore now that I've been in this world for 5 years.
Yeah, you'd probably quit after like the second day. You'd like, are you, what? I got to do what?
Oh, I think I would be a nightmare because I'm running my own ship, and I was always in primarily a management position. So I've always been a team player, and I've always been a frontline manager. I very much get down in the trenches with people. But somebody turning around who has no clue about personal growth, personal development, or hasn't done the work on themselves, trying to take me to task on something, that would not be pretty.
Yeah, it would be an alarming sight that
I'd be on the 6 o'clock news, but not for what people would normally be used to seeing.
Well, that's why I keep a reserve called the bail money fund, because you never know. I've kind of had that off on the side for well, let's see, my friends that I've known for 4+ decades. Yeah, well, sometimes we get into those things, but no, one of the things that jumped out at me, what you talked about is, you have the boundaries there of all these great things, which again are great things. Like speaking in Ireland, I'm part Irish. That would be a dream come true. But again, it would have to be, all right, when is it? Mm-hmm. What do they want me to talk about? What's the cost? What are they doing? Where would it benefit me? Yeah, both short term and long term. If it's a situation where it's like, well, the conference isn't going to be any good and there's going to be 20 people there, but I get to go to Ireland. Yeah, that's one of those things where a couple of years ago, I would have been, that's great. I'm still going to do it. Now it would be, no, I'm not going to do it if it doesn't move my movement forward. If it doesn't move things forward, if it doesn't benefit my tribe or my audience, or expand my audience in a way that would be beneficial for me to serve more people, then I'm not going to do that. I can just go buy a plane ticket and go fly to Ireland and go visit and do whatever I need to do and do that. And that's something that I can do. If it's in alignment with everything, then sure, then you make those choices, because I look at speaking abstracts all the time and talking at different events, and I'm pretty much at some type of conference every other month for the rest of 2019. And again, because I am, very intimate with my calendar. I don't get that wrong, kids. It's a digital calendar, so it's not paper. So don't get your minds out of the gutter. But it's something where I look at it all the time. One, so I can remember, what am I supposed to be doing today? I knew we had our chat today, but I've got, other things going on this afternoon and the rest of the week. And I thought, okay, let's, look out at, over the next few months and see where things are. And as things are coming up with other opportunities, like you said, you have to look at it and go, okay, does this make sense? How does this align? Or, oh, that's a great conference. Oh, it's right at the same time of a conference that I've already agreed to. Well, guess what? I'm staying with the conference that I agreed to because it's called integrity. And it's like I'm honoring that commitment to an organization and not being afraid of, missing out, because these conferences happen year after year after year. And if you don't go to one this year, then you can go to the one next year or whenever. And you may never go to it because it may not be in alignment with, what your mission and your vision is about. If it is in alignment, then you know what? It will happen. And don't focus on missing out on it, because you're not going to. When you do get to go to whatever events and destinations that you'd like to go to, it's going to be the right time. It's going to be the right audience. It's going to be the right everything. And you'll be thankful that you didn't go in 2018 or 2019, because 2022 was the right year for you to go there because of the connections that you met that launched you into the next stage. And it just, having that mindset of, when I meet with people, there's going to be somebody there that's going to help me or help somebody that I know get to the next level that they want to get to. And if you go into your everyday thinking that, and feeling it and acting as if it is true, then it happens.
Well, very true. And I mean, my mindset is such that even if it comes down to a situation where I have to decline, and as much as I might initially have a twinge about that or feel conflicted or feel like that's putting me back further in my career, then I recalibrate that thinking very quickly. And then I think to myself, and I say to myself, and I truly believe in this, Lisa, it's a win-win, because it's always, for me, everything is good, right? There's different levels and degrees and colors of good. The bad has been good for me. The bad has served me. The bad has helped hone my purpose and my mission. So I don't put things into the context of bad. So I always look upon, when it's a situation I've got to decline something that I know would further propel me in my career and get me out there fulfilling my purpose of uplifting as many people as I possibly can to fear less and to live more, and bring me closer to that goal. And that mission statement, then I just look upon it and I just say to myself, this is how I reconcile it with myself. I say, Lisa, it's always this or something better, and this is fine. This is good. This is good. There's different increments and different levels of scaling and leveraging that's always going to be more refined in its greatness. But I'm perfectly grateful to be where I already am, and it's only going to incrementally add, and I'm only going to incrementally climb, because again, I believe it. And by believing it, I see it, and I'm just going to catch up to what I already envision eventually, because I'm doing all the right things, I'm saying all the right things, I'm aligned with all the right people, and because I'm very clear on my non-negotiables, and I am so laser with what it is I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and where I'm going with it. So, I just, I'm good with it. I'm good with all of it.
That's awesome. Lisa, I cannot thank you enough for, one, being you.
Aw, thanks, Michael. Right back at you, buddy.
Thank you. And secondly, for all of this gold, the notes I've taken, of course, I will listen to this and fill out more notes on it, because there's a ton of stuff. And even the last thing I just wrote down, it's this or something better. And you go through that mindset of that, then it takes the sting off of saying no to it. Even if you're like, but it's this or something better. If you know that, it's like, yes, I'm turning this down, but this opportunity is going to happen, and it's going to be better than this. And you go through life like that, it's so much better. It's so much better.
Well, the path of least resistance is always synonymous with, operating at your highest vibrational level, right? Because then you don't have that disconnect, you don't have that discord, you don't have that inner friction. And yeah, I still get there, and I still have to talk myself and work my way out of it, but I do it exponentially faster than ever ever before, because I'm very cognizant that my energy isn't great, or that I'm not operating at my highest vibrational level, or that the things I'm thinking about in that particular moment are counterintuitive to everything else I've said is fundamentally and essentially and non-negotiably important to me. So it's always the path of least resistance. When you feel the least resistance, you know that you're going in the right direction.
Amen to that. So where can people find you?
Well, people can find me. I go live every Friday, Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. I'm with two networks. So the Contact Talk Radio Network, which is located in Bellevue, Washington, outside of Seattle. I can also be found on C-Suite Radio Network, where I have a host page, also Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. I can be found all over social media. LinkedIn is my preferable site because in a lot of cases, it's entrepreneurs. A lot of my guests have come out of LinkedIn specifically, entrepreneurs who value other entrepreneurs' time, and who are in the space doing similar things and are always looking to mutually learn and grow one another. So it's fantastic. I can be found anywhere, really. People can Google me. People can reach out to me on my website, which is livingfearlesslywithlisamcdonald.com. People can reach me through email, which is lisa@livingfearlesslywithlisa.com. I've got a contact page on my website. I really try not to get too bogged down with communicating with people through social media inboxing. My numbers are terrible, like in terms of notification after notification. I can't keep up with it, because if I kept up with all the correspondence, it's not to say that I'm not grateful or I'm not honored or I'm not touched, but I would never get my content done. I would never be in the zone and focus for what I have to produce and my output of execution every week in terms of radio, and honoring the people who I'm showcasing, who are expecting me to represent them well and to be in the flow for them. So yeah, those would be my preferred ways in which to connect with people. So, and I'm now in official launch with my book, Living Fearlessly, Uplifting You to Fear Less and to Live More, through Amazon. Went through a pre-launch just this past week or last week. We're now in official launch. So if people want to order my book, they can find Living Fearlessly and my name, Lisa McDonald, over on Amazon. Reviews are always welcome. You can find me on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Podchaser, FeedBlitz, TuneIn, C-Suite Radio. The list goes on. So, always receptive to reviews, testimonials. If there's anything I can do to help elevate other people within their line of business, because we don't know what we don't know. If I can be of service in any which way, I'm always about paying it forward and being of service. I know a lot of people. I've connected a lot of people to a lot of good people, and it's been instrumental in their career and their growth and their momentum. So would love to be in a position in which to do that. If people are looking for a mentor or coach, I'm here for that as well. So yeah, and I can be reached, actually, I'll give my phone number, 289-684-7707, and I'm in Canada. So thank you, Michael. This has been amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you so much, and audience will definitely have all that information in the show notes. Lisa, thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate you so much, and I hope you have a glorious rest of your day and the week ahead.
Well, you too, my friend, and this is just the beginning. I always say it's the beginning. It's never the end, right? So you and I having more experiences, whether it's planes, trains, automobiles, whether it's within the C-suite and we go to a thought summit in New York, whatever the case may be. I mean, you're just around the corner from me essentially anyway. So it's inevitable that we're going to cross paths again, but I really appreciate this gracious opportunity you've provided me with. You're fantastic, Michael, and you're doing amazing things in the space. Keep shining, my friend.
Thank you, and you do the same. And until next time, everybody, be well. Hey, it's Michael again. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. If you're like many people, you're dealing with some significant stress and possibly approaching burnout. I know how you feel. In 2009, my burnout led to a year of worst-case scenarios. I do not want that to happen to you. If you go to breakfastleadership.com, you can register for a free webinar on burnout prevention, as well as get a free checklist to have successful mornings. Start off each day the right way. Again, that's at breakfastleadership.com. Also, since you are a loyal podcast listener, I'm asking you to like, rate, and review my podcast on iTunes. I look at all the reviews and appreciate your comments, and it helps other potential listeners discover the content I have on the show. I appreciate you, and thanks again for listening.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.